إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وجاهد في الله حق الجهاد حتى أتاه اليقين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. أما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. As the brothers have announced, the subject that I selected for myself, firstly, for my brothers, secondly, is a chapter from one of the greatest books of Al-Islam. Not just one of the greatest books of Hadith, not just the most authentic book of Hadith, but one of the greatest books of Al-Islam, of the Deen, period. And this book is commonly known as Sahih Bukhari. Not necessarily the title that the author gave it. And the chapter that we have chosen for us and for you is called Kitabu Fadailu Ashab al-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. The chapter of the excellent merits, the virtues and superiorities of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam's companions. Before we get started with this chapter, why we chose this chapter, what do we wish to accomplish with this chapter? What is this in front of you, these yellow pages with this small squinty print? Why do we choose this? Before we get started with all of this, brothers and sisters, we say is that we have to talk about something and we have to discuss something. If we can't discuss this and if we can't get past this, then wallahi, my trip out to Minneapolis, Minnesota will be a waste of time. Waste of my time and a waste of your time. We call it 2 airplanes. The first airplane, I left my house in New York City at approximately 3:30 a.m. No sleep, no breakfast, Salat al-Fajr in the airport. Then we got on another plane. The plane was delayed an hour. And the list goes on of trials and tribulations, difficulties and sacrifices that had to be made for us to come and sit in front of you. But if we can't get this past this one point, then all of this time, effort, energy, and money is a waste. And that is something which is called mudhakaratul ilm, making review of knowledge, revising knowledge, going back over the information that you previously took. Last summer, we came, we visited you, and what did we speak about? What was the main topic of our lessons? The 7 companions who are the most prolific narrators of hadith. Ahsant. What else did we talk about? The 10 companions that were promised paradise specifically. Ahsant. Who can say those 2 things in Arabic? We explained it several times. The proper pronunciation, the proper writing of those 2 terms. We gave a conference on this for many days. How many days? Was it 8 days we stayed? 7, 8 days. 5? Who knows? What are the first group of people called? The 7 companions who narrated the most hadiths. Huh? The 7 companions who narrated the most hadiths. Anybody remember the names of those group of people? The name in Arabic. We mentioned it. We explained it in detail. Tayyib, what about the second group? The 10 companions promised paradise. What are they called? Who are they called? Al-Ashar al-Mubashirin or al-Mubasharin. Fatha or Kasra? Fatha, Ascent. Al-Ashara al-Mubasharuna bil-Jannah. Very good. What about the first group? Give it a try. As-Sab'a. Qul ma'i. As-Sab'a al-Mukthiruna min riwayati Hadith Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ahsantum. Tayyib. So, even though it was a different masjid, it was a different center, perhaps it was a different crowd, many brothers were there, alhamdulillah, but we still have to make review. Conference after conference, talk after talk is of no fa'idah if we do not make review. Here you're studying the Quran al-Kareem. Naam, something that is divinely facilitated. وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ. Indeed, Allah says, indeed, we have made the Quran easy to be remembered, easy to be reviewed. However, despite Allah sending down these ayat, the Prophet ﷺ, he told us that the Quran can escape from one of you faster than a camel does when it isn't tied, when it isn't fastened. So any hafiz of the Quran, male or female, young or old, any teacher of the Quran, he knows the importance and the necessity of muraja'ah, of review. Is this not the case? No matter how sharp you are, no matter how good you are, no matter how fast you memorize, you have to do what? You have to make review, you have to make revision. And if you don't make revision, all of your efforts will go down the drain. The efforts of your teacher and the efforts of the what? Of the student. Now, out of this group of brothers and sisters, we had how many people who participated? One or two? Huh? How many? Who gave an answer? One or two? Who are they? What's his name? What's his name? You don't know his name? Why not? It's your brother in Islam. How many people participated in the class so far? How many? One or two? Just one, right? What's your name, Akhi? Muhammad Amin. Tayyib. Muhammad Amin, what do you think if I told everybody to leave and go home and just me and you have the class, have the lecture? You think that's fair or unfair? Fair. Allah, unfair. Why is it unfair? Huh? You'll be the only one who benefits. So do the rest of the people deserve to benefit if they didn't make review? No, huh? Can we have a volunteer from the crowd? Somebody can read something for us in Arabic? We have a volunteer? Anybody wish to volunteer to read? Anybody want the ajr? Something. You want to read or not? You don't want the ajr? You do want the ajr? Yeah. Alhamdulillah, not yet. Say that. Not yet. I'll come back next year, inshallah. You be what? You be reading, bismillah, okay? Inshallah. We have any volunteers? Anybody wish to read for us? You want to read, Shuaib? No, why are you afraid? Allah musta'an. I'm going to share something with you, bismillah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Muhammad Amin. And this will determine on whether or not you should be the only one to sit and benefit from the class, inshallah. It's a statement of the great scholar of al-Islam, al-Khatib al-Baghdadi, rahimahullah, who was known to have written several books on the etiquettes of a student of knowledge, who was known to have authored many monumental works on the do's and don'ts of seeking ilm. He says, وَيَنْبَغِي أَنْ يُرَاعِيَ مَا يَحْفَظُهُ ويستعرض جميعه كلما مضت له مدة ولا يغفل ذلك فقد كان بعض العلماء إذا علم إنسانا مسألة من العلم سأله عنها بعد مدة فإن وجده قد حفظها علم أنه محب للعلم فأقبل عليه وزاد وإن لم يره قد حفظها وقال له المتعلم كنت قد حفظتها فأنسيتها أو قال كتبتها فأضعتها أعرض عنه ولم يعلمه. He says, listen very carefully, brothers and sisters, all ages, this is extremely important. Quran, Hadith, Lugha al-Arabiya, whatever you want to study, science, medicine, architecture, this is crucially important, especially as Muslims, let alone non-Muslims. He says, it's necessary for you to take care of what you memorize. It's necessary for you to look after what you've memorized, what you've studied. In other words, it's unnecessary for you to sit in a class, sit in a lecture, finish a juz, finish 10 juz, finish the entire Quran, and just say khalas. Everybody understand? He said this is unnecessary. This is bad. You shouldn't do this. He says, and every time a period of time goes by, a month, a year, a week, every 6 months, every 3 months, you should renew the information that you previously memorized. Depending on what you see fit. You may have to do it once a week. You may have to do it once a month, once a year, every 6 months, every 3 years, depending on your memory and how much you've memorized. But a time must be in which you do what? You do what? Spring cleaning of your mind and of your heart. You refresh it. Everybody paying attention here. Everybody paying attention. Everybody listening. He then says, rahimahullah ta'ala, it's unnecessary for you to neglect this. For you to just memorize, pass the exam, sit in the lecture, listen to the class, and then khalas. That's unnecessary. He then says, there were some of the ulama of the past, Muhammad Amin, some of them, whenever they taught a student, mas'ala, one issue, one ruling, one hadith, one fatwa, one juz that he recited to him, one page of the Quran, not an entire lecture, not an entire dawrah, not an entire conference, not 10 classes, one mas'ala. He would come back a year later, 6 months later, whatever the case may be. He would come back to him and he would speak to him and he would ask him, give it back to me what I gave you. Who are the companions? What do we talk about? What do we speak on? If the student, if the learner could regurgitate the information, the teacher would know that he truly loved ilm. He was a lover of knowledge. And then he would give him more and he would hand him more gems and more jewels. And if he forgot it, if he said, I wrote it down, but I lost my papers, I lost my notes, then he would do what? He says, أَعْرَضَ عَنْهُ. He would turn away from him. Go, I can't help you out. There's nothing I can do for you if you don't review what I give you. So, Muhammad Amin, is it fair for me to just teach you and nobody else? You change your mind now? Yes or no? It's fair or unfair? Fair. Allahu Akbar. Tahir. So we have two things now that we learn from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have mercy and then we have justice. Naam? We have mercy and then we have what? Justice. Justice would be everybody leave, just me and him study. Mercy would be what? Say it's okay and let everybody what? Benefit. So what do we do? Mercy or justice, Abdullah? Mercy. You sure? It wasn't mercy when I stayed up all night and sleep just to make sure I didn't miss my flight. 3 a.m. in the morning, 3:30 in the morning. Huh? It took me 35 minutes, 45 minutes just to check in. I had to stand there waiting just to check in. Not my bags, not security, just for them to allow me to check in. Huh? They didn't show me any mercy coming here. Why should I be merciful now? Khairan, inshallah. Mercy, Muhammad Amin? Inshallah, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the point is, brothers and sisters, this is very important. Please, do not allow my words to go in one ear, out the other. You must make review. And the best students of knowledge, the best talabat al-ilm, the best people that become mashayikh and ulama are those who make the most review. Is this not the case? Those who make the most review. The best basketball players are those who make the most what? Practice. They practice the most. Everybody understand this? The best shooters are those who shoot how many free throws? 7? That's it. How many three-pointers? He practice 300. 300 on a basic shot. So when game time comes, he's tired, he's fatigued, he's a little injured, he's tired, whatever the case may be, he may be playing with the flu. He goes to the foul line in the fourth quarter. There's no way he's what? There's no way he's missing that shot. Three-pointer, layup, foul. There's no way he's missing it. It's crucial, it's crunch. And the same applies to the student of knowledge, to the imam, to the hafiz that has reached a level of mastery. How does he recite the Quran in Salat al-Tarawih, Qiyam, without making no mistakes? Surah al-Baqarah, Surah al-Imran, so long, so many ayat that sound alike, that are similar. Because he does what so much? He practice, and reviews until it's permanently burnt into his mind. And even when he reaches that level, he always does practice. And if you don't believe me, if you think it's an exaggeration, then go to your teacher. Why do you think your teacher leaves and closes the door? What do you think he does when he sits in his office and he locks the door? He has his what? His mushaf. And he's making what? Revision. Let alone the fact that every time you review a piece of information, it becomes easier. It becomes clearer. You understand it in a way that you didn't understand it the previous time. And this is why Allah Azza wa Jalla speaks on the believers and the similitude of the believers, nurun ala nur. He says light upon light. I studied it, I reviewed it, I taught it, I memorized it, I wrote about it, I did a class, and every single time I get more rewards. It becomes firmer in my memory, and I have a deeper, more in-depth fiqh of what I'm teaching and what I'm studying. Everybody understand this? Perhaps these words are a bit too heavy right now. Inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Khairan inshallah. So let's move forward. Why do we choose this chapter to study? Kitabu Fadail Ashab Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. The chapter of the virtues of the companions of the Messenger of Allah Alayhi Wasallam. Why this? Why not Kitab al-Tawheed from Sahih Bukhari? Why not Kitab al-Ilm from Sahih Bukhari? Why not Kitab al-Tafsir, Kitab al-Mazalim, the virtues of the Quran? Why talk about the virtues of the companions of the Messenger of Allah Alayhi Wasallam? The following reasons. Number one, first and foremost is we wish to continue what we had previously started. We want to build. Every time we come, we don't want to keep reinventing the wheel over and over again. We'll give you something, you learn it, you study it, you do your own personal research, and then you can build on it. So a year, 2 years, 3 years, this is my 4th time visiting Minneapolis. My 4th time. So bi-idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala, you start accomplishing something. And then you have a tangible, solid piece of knowledge. Everybody understand? So this is the first reason. We spoke about the Sahaba, the 10. We spoke about the 7. We spoke about the definition of a Sahabi. Who is a Sahabi? Who isn't a Sahabi? Naam? You were reading as well. Naam. We spoke about who is a Sahabi. What determines for a person to be a Sahabi? And we also spoke about the proper etiquettes regarding the Sahaba. What do we believe when it comes to the Sahaba? When they're mentioned, what do we do? How do we feel? How do we react? How do we behave? Naam? What we don't believe about them. How we don't react when they're mentioned. Naam? The different battles, the fitan that took place among the Sahaba. Who's best, who's better, who's right, who's wrong. We spoke about all of this last summer. So now, bi-idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala, we wish to go deeper, more detail, more fa'idah. That's the first reason why we chose this topic to study. Number 2, we want to study bi-idhnillah, even if it's only for a day or 2, or 3 or 4, only Allah knows best. Only Allah knows. We wanted to open up and take fa'idah from one of the greatest books of al-Islam. Al-Jami' al-Sahih of Imam al-Bukhari is not just a book of hadith. Rather, it is a book of tafsir. It's a book of seerah. It's a book of history. It's a book of fiqh. It's a book of iman, tawheed, aqidah. It's a book of adab and akhlaq. It's a book that teaches you everything and it gives you everything that you need and want. Of course, it's in English and other languages as well. There's several different translations of Sahih al-Bukhari in English, not just one. So we want to study bi-idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala one of the greatest books of al-Islam. Not one of the greatest books of hadith, but one of the greatest books of what? Of Islam. So if you study qira'at, if you study tafsir, if you consider yourself to be a faqih, a mutafaqih, raghib fiqh, you study this madhab and that madhab, you can never ever dispense from Sahih al-Bukhari. Abadan. It's one of the biggest, baddest books known to man. And that is Allah's bounty that He gives to whom He wills. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 3. This chapter, speaking about the companions and their virtues, it deals with Hadith al-Nabawi Sharif. It pertains to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's hadiths. And anything about the hadiths of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is important. Anything that pertains to hadith of the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is something that's worthy of our time, worthy of our efforts, worthy of our attention. If it was one hadith that we studied, one hadith. If it was 2 hadiths that we took, if it was 1 paragraph that we took, that wouldn't be a waste. Everybody clear on this? Number 4 is, we wish to, bi-idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala, learn more about the Sahaba and their virtues in order for us to imitate them. to adopt their way, to understand Islam, to practice Islam as they practice al-Islam. Number 5 is for us to humble ourselves. It's for us to realize what these people had reached, what Allah had given them. There are many people, and perhaps this is one of the, I would say, maybe one of the earliest problems that you face when you go overseas and you begin to study and you really start taking it to the next level, or even here in America, you start excelling, you start taking off. One of the earliest problems that falls upon a student of knowledge is conceit. Conceit. A person starts to become a little conceited, a little arrogant, or we may say in our common culture, you start smelling yourself. It's natural. It's natural. You become a little cocky. You become a little arrogant, naturally. Wow. Everybody understand this? It can happen to the best person. So how do you stay level? How do you prevent your head from swelling up like a hot air balloon? Now, you think that you're everything. You memorize Alfiya bin Malik. Tabarakallah. You memorize this, you study this, you have your jazz, fulan and fulan and fulan. You start to rise a little bit. How do you weigh yourself down and make sure that you remain humble? By reading about those who are greater than you. Those who are bigger than you, better than you. Those who did more for Islam than you can possibly dream of. The people that the Prophet ﷺ said regarding, it says, do not insult my companions. Don't belittle my companions. Don't say anything negative about my companions. And an interesting fact is, the Prophet ﷺ, he said this hadith to a person who was from his companions. He said that sentence to someone who was a Sahabi himself. But he wasn't like the Sahaba from the early days of Mecca. He wasn't from the Sahaba before this battle and this conquest, before this pact and this peace treaty. This companion was a great companion, but he came later on. I won't mention his name. Perhaps you know, and perhaps you'll find out and discover it. He said to a companion, do not belittle my companions. So if he said that to a Sahabi, then what about us? Why did he say don't belittle my companions? He says, because I swear by Allah, if you spent, if you gave sadaqah, if you gave in Allah's cause the gold that was equal to Mount Uhud, it wouldn't reach a handful of grain. It wouldn't reach a handful of corn, a handful of wheat, a handful of flour. Is there any comparison between gold and flour today? One small piece of gold, one earring, one bracelet, one nugget could be more than what? 50 bags of grain. Everybody understand this? So anyone who's made Hajj or Umrah, you know how big, how large, how long Mount Uhud is. So just imagine that now. You give that much gold in Allah's cause, it would not meet. It wouldn't come close to a scoop or a handful of grain that one of the companions gave. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said this to one of the greatest, if not the greatest warriors of Islam. One of the greatest warriors of Islam. He was such a great warrior that the Prophet ﷺ gave him a special name, a special title. Everybody understand this? So what about us today? So whenever you feel a little woozy up top, because you've memorized these books, because you've studied this, because you're the best among your people, go back and read the lives of the Sahaba. And those who came after the Sahaba, what they did, and he says, you know what, I'm nothing compared to this one. I'm nothing compared to this one. You studied overseas for 7 years, 10 years, 15 years, tayyib. This man studied his entire life. This man lost his eyesight writing a book on hadith because he didn't have a proper light at nighttime. He had a candle flickering in the wind. This man walked without no shoes, barefooted. He says, I walked it was so hot, it was so cold. He says that I urinated blood twice. You think about that, urinating blood twice. Not a kidney stone, but to urinate blood. Because of poverty. Because of sacrifice for hadith. So whenever you start to think that you're everything, think that you're all that, humble yourself. And read about the true masters of knowledge. The true ulama. The true people of ilm. The last reason perhaps that we mention here, because there are many, is for us to motivate ourselves. To encourage ourselves. And this and the last point go hand in hand. In Islam, you have to be humble. You have to avoid arrogance. You have to avoid conceit. Except for the times in which the Prophet ﷺ allowed a man to be conceited. There are times in which it's permissible to be a little cocky. Not on a basketball court, Not in the gym. You pass me the ball. Fake me out, Not that time. But a crossover. Tayyib. We say what? This point and the last, they go hand in hand. And that point is motivation. Having high aspirations, having goals that you wish to set. Humble yourself, but at the same time, don't be pleased with being low. Everybody understand this? Don't be arrogant. Don't be stuck up. Don't think that you're everything and you're the best thing, the best person to ever recite, to say the letter Dad. Don't think that. But at the same time, you should wish to perfect your craft. You should wish to raise the bar. Everybody understand this? Take it to the next level. And everything in Islam is based off of what? Balance. It's based off of what? Balance. Being humble, but at the same time, inna Allah katab al-ihsana ala kulli shay. Allah has prescribed ihsan in all things. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, you should sharpen your knives. وَلْيُحِدَّ أَحَدُكُمْ شَفْرَتَهُ. Sharpen your knife. Keep your blade what? Sharp, not dull. Everybody understand this? So you should wish to, وَفِي ذَلِكَ فَلْيَتَنَافَسِ الْمُتَنَافِسُونَ. Let them compete, let them fight for good deeds, but without jealousy, without envy, and without you looking down upon the next man thinking that you're better than the next person. Everybody understand this? So these are 6 reasons why we chose this chapter from Sahih al-Bukhari. Everybody clear on this? Make sense? Make sense or not? What's your name, Akhi, with the glasses? Zakaria. Make sense or not, Zakaria? How old are you? And what do you want to be when you grow up? A doctor of Sharia? Doctor of fiqh? Doctor of qira'at? Inshallah. Tahir. Khair, inshallah. Let's move forward, brothers and sisters. It says here, Kitabu Fadail al-Sahaba min Jami' al-Imam al-Bukhari. Does anybody know anything about this print? Why this print looks like this? Have you ever seen something like this before? Yeah. Tafadal. Shaykh al-Bukhari wrote the book. Right. Why does it look like this though? Oh, is Sahih Bukhari here in this masjid? No. What? No. Sahih Bukhari is not in the masjid? Where? It is or it isn't? It's here. Tayyib. Khair inshallah. Sahih Bukhari should be very close by. Should be what? Wajinal Jannatayn-ish? And then the fruits of paradise are what? Close by. You don't have to reach out. Everybody understand this? Tayyib. Khair inshallah. Anybody know why the book looks like this? Why we chose this? Looks old, yellow, maybe crusty. Anybody know? Back in the days, the good old days. Tayyib. Anybody else? Tafadal. It's from the original copies. Tayyib. Anybody else? Brothers or sisters, anybody else? Why we chose this one? Anybody have Sahih Bukhari in their phone? They can look at it, how it looks with the modern print. Tafadal. Anybody else know why? Have a guess why? Tayyib. We say, as alhamdulillah you said, Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, he wrote the book. In the old days, it's how they used to write, with quills. Nah, they didn't have modern pens. There was no printing press. There was no laser jet, Canon, Epson printer. Nah, everything was done by what? By hand, from scratch. So this is not written by hand. This is printed. This is printed. However, the print, salam, alhamdulillah, barakallahu fiqh. We say what? This print of Sahih Bukhari is that which is known as a Taba'a al-Sultaniyya, or a Nuskhat al-Sultaniyya, which is one of the most authentic and most sound versions of Sahih al-Bukhari. This is a fa'idah obviously for the advanced tulab al-ilm, those who wish to read Sahih al-Bukhari and memorize it and study it on a daily basis. You shouldn't just be pleased with any old type of book, You should have a good print of the book, because there are errors, there are typos, there are things that are put into the version of the book that are not from Bukhari. Or it may be discrepancies. Imam al-Bukhari had several hundreds of students who took the book from him. He had this version, he had this version, he had another version. Everybody understand this? Like a letter or a story. 10 people saw the story, and all 10 of them gave the general gist of the story, but there's different what? Discrepancies in different parts. So everybody understand this? Khair inshallah. What time is Salat al-Maghrib? Few minutes. Tayyib. Not only is Salat al-Maghrib close, but it seems as if we lost some of the attention. It seems as if a lot of chatter is going on right now. Huh? Maybe the earlier classes, the earlier lectures, maybe it's been a lot. But it seems like we lost some of the attention. But it's okay. We don't want to shush. We want talk. We want chatter. We want clatter. But about Bukhari. Huh? That's what we want to talk about, inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Khair, inshallah. So, before we stop, how much time do we have for the questions? Is there any time for the questions? We have 10 minutes for questions or 10 minutes to stop for questions? Which of the two? Khair, inshallah. All right, let's take some questions. Inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala, on the topic, off the topic. Inshallah. Any questions on the topic or off the topic? Abdullah, you mind restarting the recording on the camera? The Q&A? Yeah, it's a separate recording. You can keep the live stream going, inshallah. Tayyib, bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa ashabi ajma'een. Amma ba'd. Any questions on the topic or off the topic? Now is the time, by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tfaddal. Question says, Imam al-Bukhari was born what century after the Prophet? Who can answer this question? What century was Imam al-Bukhari born in? Huh? 2015? 9 years ago? Muhammad Amin always raised the what? Yameen. Tfaddal. The second century. The second century. Tayyib. Very good. What year specifically? What year was Imam al-Bukhari born in specifically? Anybody know? Ha! Anybody know? So Imam al-Bukhari, since we don't know, we can't give him the answer. We say what? Everybody pay attention. We say according to what the brother said, he was born approximately 200 years after the Prophet ﷺ's death, roughly. I can't give you the specific date. There's something that has to come from your colleagues. Everybody should know this information, especially if you're a self-respecting student of knowledge. A self-respecting what? Student of knowledge. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Next question.
How many books did Bukhari write?
Question says, how many books did Imam al-Bukhari write? Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, he wrote many books. From them is the Jami' al-Sahih. From them is al-Adab al-Mufrad. From them is the Tarikh al-Kabir, al-Tarikh al-Saghir. Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, he wrote several different books. These are the main monumental works of Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah. Many scholars of hadith, they wrote more than he did, but he chose to write a selected handful that were pretty much solid. Everybody understand this? This obviously is his most famous work. But there was a book that Imam al-Bukhari wrote before this. And an interesting fact, brothers and sisters, is that Imam al-Bukhari, he wrote this book when he was 18 years old. 18 years old. When he and his mother, they traveled to perform Hajj and Umrah. He was 18. And he wrote this book in the Prophet ﷺ's masjid, At-Tarikh al-Kabir, which has several volumes. It's one of the greatest books on hadith science and hadith narrators. So just think about that. You 18 years old, how many books are you writing? Naam? Tfaddal. Excuse me? The last book that Imam al-Bukhari made, Allahu Alam. Allahu Alam. Tfaddal. Question says, we know that Imam al-Bukhari, his knowledge was big. What were the factors behind Imam al-Bukhari having such big knowledge? First and foremost is tawfiq from Allah. That is a divine blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَرَبُّكَ يَخْلُقُ مَا يَشَاءُ وَيَخْتَارُ. Allah creates what He wills and He chooses what He wills. So He chose this man, al-Bukhari, to carry his deen. That's the first reason. Secondly is, we say his upbringing. How he was raised with regards to his mother and father, his brothers, his uncles, how he was young, and how he went on to travel and to seek knowledge at a very early young age. Thirdly, we say is sacrifice. Sacrifice. He gave up much of the comfort to gain more ilm. Fourthly, we say he was daring. He had courage. He wasn't afraid. When you read the life of Imam al-Bukhari, we know that there were many people that were envious, that were jealous. Some people try to stop him from doing what he was doing. He did not allow that to stand in his way. He had a dream. Rather, he had several dreams, approximately 3 to 4 dreams, while he wrote his Jami' Sahih. And he followed his dreams. And perhaps this is the most important lesson for the young brothers and sisters today. Follow your dreams. If you wish to become an alim, a faqih, an imam, a qari, you can't be stopped by your parents. You cannot be stopped by your contemporaries, your colleagues, your classmates, by your wife. You can't be stopped by your husband. You have to follow your dreams. And it takes courage to be a scholar. Everybody understand this? You have to be brave to be a student of hadith. So these are perhaps, bi'idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the what? Biggest reasons why he became what he became, let alone his talent that Allah gave him, and his skill, and how he traveled and continued to learn and sit and humble himself. Wallahu ta'ala alam. That's in brief, obviously. Fadal.
There's a question here about one of the sisters.
Says, what is the best/ideal schedule to review a hadith for a student who's studying to become a muhadditha? Can you repeat the first 3 benefits of learning about the companions? Jazakallahu khairan. As far as the first question, then alhamdulillah, it's a question that makes us very happy. For here, anybody that's wishing and willing, aspiring to learn hadith, let alone a woman, which has become unfortunate, knowledge today, in many times, in many places, has been monopolized by men. And many women, they think and they feel that ilm is only for men. It's only for men. That's not true. That's wrong. Some of the greatest scholars of hadith were women. We don't have to go no further than Aisha radiallahu anha. And how many of the tabi'een would go to the Prophet ﷺ's household? They would enter upon her. They would give salams. They would say, Ya ummah, oh mother. And they would ask her fatwa. They would ask her a hadith. She would give them hadiths from the Prophet. She would give them fatwa, rulings and regulations. Don't do this, don't do that. One narration, a man, he stayed and something embarrassing happened to him. And he wanted to know the legislative ruling. He was ashamed and he was shy. She says, don't be ashamed. I'm your mother. Don't be ashamed. Ask what you wish to ask. Let alone the times which Aisha radiallahu anha criticized other Sahaba. She rebuked and refuted other companions, let alone tabi'een. And what she felt was right, whether she was right or whether she was wrong. So the point is, Aisha radiallahu anha, she should be the role model of every single sister who aspires to learn and seek ilm. Let alone her students, Amra bint Abdurrahman, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on. At the end of the day, I would say it depends on your schedule. It depends on can you multitask or not, how strong your memory is or not. If you've memorized 40 hadith of an-Nawawi as an example, then that metin is something that you review once a week. Once a week. Once a week. One day after Salat al-Fajr, you sit in a masjid, you sit in your home, and make the tahfidh and the tasmi' of the metin to yourself or to someone from cover to cover. If it's Bulugh al-Maram, take 200 hadiths a week, 250 hadiths every month. Review them, write them down, have someone test you, etc. Just like you memorize and study the Quran. Read it, close the book, sit in a corner, write it down. And my advice, one of the best, quickest, fastest, and easiest ways of keeping hadith is teaching hadith. If you want to keep those hadith that you memorize to be muhadditha, how many halaqat do you have for the sisters? In your house, it doesn't have to be 50 sisters. It could be 2 sisters, 5 sisters. Teach them hadith. Recite to them, read to them, explain to them, and I guarantee, bi'idhnillah, you will not forget those hadiths. What's important is, the way that a woman is to study hadiths is no different than a man to study hadiths. Rather, better, it may be even easier for a woman to study hadiths. Because there's some responsibilities that a woman doesn't have to do. A woman does not have to work in Islam. If she's married, her husband should take care of everything. A woman should not work in Islam unless it's a job that's very beneficial for the Muslims. A teacher, something, a nurse, something that the Muslims need. If that's not the case, a woman should not necessarily work, let alone she shouldn't have to work. If she's married, your husband should pay for all of the bills, everything. If you're living in your father's house, that's your father's responsibility. So sometimes women, they have more free time than men. Sometimes women have more free time than men. As far as the second question, I cannot repeat those points because we have recorded it. And our rule is whenever we mention something and it's being recorded, you either memorize it, write it down, or go back to the recording. Wallahu ta'ala alam. As Imam az-Zuhri rahimahullah ta'ala did with Imam Malik. When he walked up to him and he asked him to repeat some of the hadiths that he heard in the Prophet's masjid. Az-Zuhri, he said, you were there, you had a pen and a paper, and you can't remember? He said, go away, get away from my horse. And he continued, leave me be. I won't repeat the knowledge that I gave you that you didn't what? Cherish. Wallahu ta'ala alam.